where they're formed. High-level cloud forms at about 20,000 feet or 6,096 meters from the ground. The higher it is, the colder it gets. So clouds at high levels are usually made of ice crystals. High-level clouds also have the prefix cirro or cirrus in their names. Middle-level clouds form between 6,500 to 20,000 feet, or about 1,980 to 6,096 meters high. These are often made up of water droplets or ice crystals. The prefix alto is often used with the names of mid-level clouds. The low-level clouds form below 6,500 feet or 1,980 meters from the ground. These consist of mostly water droplets. Such clouds have the word stratus in their names. Finally, there are also vertical clouds. These are very tall clouds that can go across many cloud levels. There are 10 main cloud types. Cirrus clouds are thin and wispy and often seen during good weather. Cirrocumulus looks like tiny cotton balls, while cirrostratus clouds can mean rainy weather the next day. Altostratus have a dark grey appearance and are often seen on rainy days. Altocumulus clouds are small, white and puffy. Nimbostratus clouds are thick and grey and usually bring rain or snow. Stratus clouds are flat and grey and may bring about a drizzle, while stratocumulus clouds are low, puffy and grey clouds that may also produce light rain. Cumulus clouds are beautiful clouds, big, white and puffy. Cumulonimbus clouds are very tall clouds, spanning from low level to high level. These types cause violent thunderstorms with heavy rain and even tornadoes.
Welcome everybody, my name is Kathy Hasty and for the next hour we are going to be doing life sciences. So before we start, a huge shout out to Liberty. They are in it with you and it's because of them that we are able to do this and help you as much as we can so that you can have the best matric results possible. Then also guys, don't forget to download your Tenfold education app. It's got a tutor function, it's got questions and answers, it is amazing. It's also brought to you by Liberty. No in-app costs or hidden anything. Liberty's taken care of everything to assist you. Then don't forget Dex, our little WhatsApp bot. You can message him and you can request questions and past papers, but you can also take clear photos of questions you want us to work through here and send them through to Dex, and he'll make sure we get them. But please, people, those pictures must be clear, otherwise we can't use the questions. All right, and then last but not least, you can type in @Mindset Learn on YouTube, and you can access all the videos from the teachers that have done any work here live for you to assist you. Okay, and there are hundreds of topics that you can select from, so definitely take a look. The Life Sciences quote of the day, and probably the week, is the following: our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. And that was by Thomas A. Edison. And as you will all know, well, I hope you all know, is that he was the chap who, after 1,000 attempts, 1,000 failures, managed to invent the iridescent light bulb. He also did phonograms, and he was the first to design a phonogram where you could actually record your voice. So, I mean, he was an amazing inventor, but it took him 1,000 times to get the electric light bulb right. So try, and try again, and you will definitely be successful. Okay, learn from your failures if you do fail. Right, let's look at our first question. This is our first question today, and what do we have? It says, the diagram below represents organisms with different reproductive strategies. So we are looking at reproductive strategies of vertebrates. Now, people, just look at this diagram. I mean, here's a male fish, there's a female fish, and they're swimming along in the water. There's no mating. They are laying, the female is laying eggs. And here are the little sperm cells. Okay, so therefore, this is external fertilization. Okay, number one. And number two, the female is laying eggs, and therefore the eggs, well, let's put eggs, therefore it is oviparous. Okay, then this little guy here is clearly a bird, and we can see eggs in the nest. Fertilization here for birds is always internal fertilization. Okay, the male uses a copulatory organ and inserts his sperm cells inside the female through her cloaca, and we have eggs, and therefore those eggs, it's oviparous, and those eggs are very special because the eggs are what we call, and I've just gone completely, I went blank for a second there. They are amniotic eggs, and they are an assistance for living on land. And then we look at our little cow here giving birth to live young. So this would be therefore, internal fertilization. Okay, and live birth. So therefore, it is viviparous development. Okay, viviparous. Think of live, the IV for live, and the IV here for viviparous. Oviparous, think of O for egg and O for oviparous. And here again, O for egg because it's the shape of an egg, and oviparous, it's egg laying. All right, so let's look at our questions. Which diagrams, 1, 2, or 3, represent organisms with external fertilization? Well, here we have internal, here we have internal. This is the only place where we have external, so it's diagram 1. Okay, then where extraembryonic membranes, now before we continue, just in case you don't know, your extraembryonic membranes are the chorion, which you'll find in an amniotic egg and in any fetal development, all right, or embryo that develops into a fetus. So the chorion, that's why they're embryonic. And you then have the amnion, and you have the allantois, and you have the yolk sac. Okay, those are the 4 extraembryonic membranes that you will find in an amniotic egg and also in a uterine, so in mammals where you have a placental connection. So you've got the chorion. The chorion surrounds the entire embryo and everything. The amnion surrounds the embryo and contains amniotic fluid, which is going to regulate temperature. It's going to protect that little embryo as it's developing, and that's the main thing, is it protects it, it cushions it. Okay, then you've got the allantois, which is really just for waste removal. So it's like a storage sac that to store waste from that developing embryo. And then you've got the yolk sac, which initially for the embryo, even in mammals, and where you've got the placental connection, there's still a yolk sac, and that yolk sac helps with nutrition until such time as that placenta is ready to rock and roll. So you're going to find these 4 embryonic membranes. Okay, just in case you didn't know what they were. They developed to assist the protection and nutrition of the embryo. So they want to know in which diagrams you're going to find that. You're going to find it in the amniotic egg, and you're going to find it where we have a viviparous connection to the uterus. So it'll be number 2, diagram number 2, and diagram number 3. Then, which is our oviparous? So oviparous means to lay eggs. O for oviparous, O for the shape of an egg. So it'll be diagram 1 and diagram 2. And just by the way, remember that ovoviviparous is a combination of egg laying and live birth. So in ovoviviparous, the female actually lays eggs which are fertilized inside her, so you'll have internal fertilization, and the eggs grow, so they've got a very thick membrane structure, not a shell as such, and the little embryos, plural, will develop inside an oviduct, which is like our oviducts in humans are our fallopian tubes. So it'll be like a big massive structure called an oviduct, and they will develop inside the oviduct. Then there's no placental connection, but what happens is the embryo feeds off the yolk in the eggs, and then when it's ready to hatch, it hatches, and the female gives birth to live young. So it's a combination of egg laying, which is oviparous, and viviparous. That's when it's ovoviviparous. It's one hell of a long name. Okay, so oviparous, egg laying, and that was a diagram. What did I say? 1. So which are oviparous would be 1 and 2. All right, so let's go. Name the type of egg produced by the organism represented in 2. Well, we've already said it's an, let's just get some more space, an amniotic egg. And that amniotic egg has the same embryonic membranes that we have, those extraembryonic membranes, as we have in a placental connection. Okay, easy peasy. All right, and oh, something else I want to tell you. If an egg is large, okay, like an ostrich egg, Okay, so let's just put this down here. So when we have a large egg or large eggs, you're going to have more yolk. I hope you agree with me. You're going to have more yolk, okay? Bigger egg, bigger yolk, bigger stuff inside. So there's more yolk, therefore there is more food or nutrition. Therefore, it's going to provide more energy to the developing embryo. Okay? Which means, therefore, the hatchling, so the thing that hatches out of the eggs, the hatchling is going to be more developed. And this is going to be when you have, this will take place. So when that hatchling is more developed, it's going to have open eyes. It's going to have, it's going to be covered with a down feathers, think of a duck. Think of little ducklings. Think of little chicks. Think of any bird, a baby ostrich. They are really all very developed. So their eyes are open, they can regulate their own body temperature, they can run around and find their own food. They literally need parental care to teach them how to be safe. And if there are predators, they can run, but the parents will defend them and try and keep them safe as well. They teach them survival techniques. So therefore, when they are more developed, we are going to end up with precocial development. In other words, the offspring are able to look after themselves. They don't rely as much on their parents, okay? And the word precocial comes from precocious. And when a child is precocious, it means that they are mature before their age. And that's what precocial means, that the offspring are mature before their age. Okay, they can take care of themselves. On the other hand, and in contrast, when you have small eggs, what happens is you have less yolk. So you must just use your common sense. So therefore, there is less food. And therefore, less energy is provided. For developing embryo. And therefore, hatchling is underdeveloped and very immature. It's immature. Okay, so here they're going to be more developed, and here I'm just going to add this in. They are more mature because they can fend for themselves. Here they are immature, all right? And that kind of develop is called tracial development. And tracial, if you think of the word, AL, think of all. And it's the parents must, let me just write this neatly. Parents must do all for offspring survival. So When there are small eggs, those offspring are going to show tracial development. They're going to be underdeveloped. They're going to be born naked. In other words, no covering on their skin. They can't control their body temperature. The mother or the father has to sit on them and be with them and in their nest and looking after them. So that they can be warm, they can be kept warm. You end up with the nests always being off the ground so that they're away from predators, because these babies are completely defenseless. They can't feed themselves, they can't move, their eyes are closed most of the time. So they are helpless, they're completely immature, and they need complete parental care. So tracial, all must be done for those babas to survive. Okay, so that's that question. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, guys and girls, we now have our next question. This is, study the diagram below. So what do we have here? You must remember to learn your diagrams. So, I don't know why they've gone P, Q, R, S, T. It's normally A, B, C, but okay, so let's go. So this here is the cerebrum. Okay? And what is the function of the cerebrum? Think about it. It is the perception of all our senses is in the cerebrum. The cerebrum controls all voluntary movement, okay, is the cerebrum. The cerebrum is also the center for higher thought patterns, intelligence, logic, reasoning. It all sits here. Okay, in fact, specifically, higher your intelligence and reasoning and logic sits here in the frontal lobe. And it's actually strange that, you know, when you think about something, what do? You look up. It's like almost your body knows this is where the thinking happens, this front part. So you sort of look up and think, come help me brain, come help me brain. Or you go, I can't remember. Let me think about that. What are you doing? You're pointing to the area of the brain. You don't point to the back of your head. You don't point to the top. You point here, because this is where your reasoning, your center for reasoning, logic, thinking processes happens here. That's all in the cerebrum. Then we have this part here, and that part there joins the left and the right hemispheres of the brain, and it's called the Corpus Callosum. Okay, Callosum. And think of callosum as keeping something close. All right, so the corpus callosum's job is to hold the left and the right hemispheres of the brain together, okay, and keep them close, and it acts as a bridge so that it transmits information from both sides of the brain so that you actually have perception of everything that's going on around you. So it acts as a bridge between the left and information sharing between the left and the right sides of your brain. Okay, then we have this little structure here, which I'm not sure if you can see on the diagram, and let me use another color here. Let's go with navy. And you see, no, that's not working either. Okay, so let's try white. Here. No, that's also not going to work. Red. Let's go with red. This little guy there, in red, that is going to be your pituitary gland. You must never just call it the pituitary. It is the pituitary gland. Okay, now, here's a hint. The pituitary gland releases all the hormones that you can abbreviate. Okay, so if a hormone can be abbreviated, it is released by the pituitary, except the pituitary also releases prolactin, which is after a baby's been born, so that the mammary glands produce milk. That's what prolactin does. It also helps the uterus to contract and shrink back to the same size it was before. before you carried the baby, etc. But all the other hormones that the pituitary gland releases are, for example, your human growth hormone, okay? Your antidiuretic hormone. That's produced by the hypothalamus, but it is secreted by the pituitary. You've then also got follicle stimulating hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone. These are all released by our little pituitary gland, plus prolactin. It's the only one that you're not going to abbreviate, but if it can be abbreviated, it is released by the pituitary. So that's one way to remember them, okay, just in case they ask. All right, now, this part of the brain is called the cerebellum. And in Afrikaans, it's called die klein brein, which means it's the little brain, which is actually quite a cute name. But for us in English, we've got the cerebrum, and then we've got the same, and then ellum. Ellum actually means baba. Okay, little one. So cerebellum. And then we've got this part here, and this here is important because without this, you die. It is the medulla oblongata. People, you must know at least 2 to 3 functions for every one of the parts of the brain. So if we look at we've got the pituitary gland, secretes hormones. We've got the cerebellum, balance, equilibrium, muscle tone. A baby has everything you have. It's got the same brain you have, okay? But a baby is unable to sit up and control its core muscles. So that's muscle tone, okay, and its balance and its equilibrium until such time as its muscles have developed enough. So then a baby will start to sit. And normally you'll put cushions around it so it doesn't fall over as it's learning muscle tone. Without muscle tone, you cannot move your skeletal muscles, okay? So the cerebellum, balance, equilibrium, muscle tone, okay? And it controls the voluntary movement of all skeletal muscles because of that, because of the muscle tone. And then the medulla oblongata, easy peasy, medulla oblongata, the breathing rate and depth. So how fast you breathe and how deeply you breathe, okay? Deep, so rate and depth of breathing, number 1, very important. Number 2, heartbeat rate, how quickly or how slowly your heartbeat works or beats. Your heartbeat beats, but it's the rate at which your heart beats. So it's heartbeat rate. Your blood pressure, because you've got to get blood to everywhere in your body. And that is regulated by the medulla oblongata, but via the hypothalamus. And what else does, and all your reflex actions like vomiting, gagging, they're all from your medulla oblongata, your peristaltic movements from the medulla oblongata. Okay, so let's take a look at our questions. Identify part R, we did, it is the pituitary gland. Then write down the letter and the name of the part. People, please make sure that when you get something like this, you write the letter first and then you write the name, okay? Because sometimes they can be quite pernickety to give you those 2 marks. So the part that could be damaged could have been damaged when a person cannot interpret senses. So we went through the functions. Which one of these has to do with your senses or the perception of your senses? It is the cerebrum. So it would be P cerebrum. So I'm going to write that out actually. P cerebrum. And actually while we're here we can do pituitary gland. I don't like calling the pituitary gland the hypophysis because I found over the 33, 4, 5 odd years that I've been teaching, learners tend to confuse hypophysis and hypothalamus. So we keep it simple. Hypothalamus is above the pituitary. The hypothalamus produces ADH, okay, and oxytocin, and it then stores it in the pituitary, which will release it when it is instructed to do so. Your pituitary gland is called your master gland because it releases all those abbreviated hormones. They control all your organs. Okay, so we got P is the cerebrum because it's the senses. So it's the senses, voluntary movement of muscles, all your skeletal muscles, and your higher intelligence. Then explain the consequences. When you see the word explain, they want you to give detail. So explain the consequences with regards to voluntary movements if S is damaged. Okay, so let's quickly check what S is. It's the cerebellum. Okay, now remember the cerebellum's job is balance, equilibrium, and muscle tone. So let's do this. Let's say if the cerebellum is damaged, I find this quite an odd question, but okay, let's go through it. If the cerebellum is damaged, then the motor neurons may not transmit impulses, because remember it's responding. So your sensory neurons will send messages, okay, are going to send messages to your central nervous system, which is, by the way, the central nervous system is the brain. Okay, so that's going to get to the cerebellum. So the cerebellum is damaged, so it's now not going to then respond. So if it's damaged, the motor neurons may not transmit impulses to the skeletal muscles. Because remember, they are your voluntary muscles that cause voluntary movement, which are your effectors, by the way. Okay. And therefore, let's just zap this down a bit, and therefore, voluntary movement like, I don't know, walking, running, I suppose, using your arms. Gosh, writing, that's what we're doing here. Writing will not be oh, for heaven's sake, I'm writing too fast. Will not be coordinated. Now, I want you to think about a baby. Can a 6-month-old baby run across the room and pick up a toy? No. Do they have skeletal muscles? Yes. Do they have muscle tone? No. Do they have coordination of their muscles? No. Okay, so it's exactly the same thing here. If the cerebellum is damaged, there is no coordinated muscle movement or coordination of muscle tone. And that is what they are looking for here. This is the most important word here. Whatever voluntary movements you are doing will not be coordinated. Okay, so what happens then? Damage to the cerebellum may result, just like with the baba that can't move, result in paralysis because your muscles cannot move in a coordinated hope that makes sense. Okay. We need to go down, down, down. Okay. Describe the role. Oh, this is something to do with the ears. It's got nothing to do with the brain either. So describe the role of the cristae in maintaining balance. People, remember that the cristae are found inside the ampulla of the semicircular canals in the inner ear. So you've got those semicircular canals. Okay, they're all three at right angles, so they're at different planes. And at the base of each one, you have a swelling, and that swelling is called your ampulla. Okay, and inside the ampulla, you have specialized little hair cells called cristae. Okay, now, what do your receptors, those are your receptors. Okay, so what do your receptors do? Remember the process of the nerve transmission process. You have a receptor. The receptor converts the stimulus to an impulse. That's the receptor's job. It receives the stimulus either from external or internal, so either outside the body or inside the body, and it converts that stimulus into the language of the brain, which is, so you can almost think of your receptors as translators. Okay, so if I have a translator for temperature in my skin, that's going to translate heat into an impulse, a language that the brain can understand. Or if I have pain and I stick a pin in my finger, which is a bit stupid, but if I did, by accident hopefully, what's going to happen? The pain receptors are going to translate that pain stimulus into an impulse, which is the language of the brain. Because your central nervous system can only understand impulses. It can't understand all the stimuli, only impulses. Okay, so the cristae are receptors that are found inside the ampulla, inside the semicircular canals in the inner ear. Okay, so now we know what we're talking about. We say, right, cristae. Okay, you must know, I'm going to put your NB. You must know these 4 points. Cristae are, let me just rub this out so I've got space. Okay, so cristae are stimulated. My pen's just gone bonky. It's I think I got too excited there. Cristae are stimulated by changes in the direction and speed of the head. Okay, so can you imagine a dancer when they're dancing and they're doing a quick turn, their heads flip around, and the better their cristae work, the better their balance is going to be. So dancers have the most amazing balance. Okay, so here we go. So when the cristae are stimulated by changes in the direction and the speed of the head. Okay, now the stimulus is converted, because there's your stimulus. The stimulus is converted to an impulse, okay, and transmitted via the auditory nerve, okay, where am I? Via the auditory nerve, and that's point 1, point 2, point 3, to the cerebellum. Okay? So now the cerebellum gets the message. And what does the cerebellum do? The cerebellum responds by sending impulses via the motor neurons, via the motor neurons to the skeletal muscles. And it's important to write skeletal because you've got cardiac muscle, you've got smooth muscle of all your organs. It's your skeletal muscle, your voluntary muscle. I'm going to put in brackets here, voluntary. So your skeletal muscles, which are the effectors, to, and this is important, restore balance and maintain it. I suppose you could have said it's restore and maintain balance, but there you go. So there are your 4 points, there are your 4 marks. And let me tell you something, if I was setting the exam, I would ask you either how the macula work or how the cristae work. Okay, so the ampulla or the macula. You're going to get, in my opinion, one of them. So make sure you know it. Here's one. Make sure you know those 4 points. Learn them. It always goes to the cerebellum, and the cerebellum sends impulses by responding, and it responds by sending impulses via the motor neurons, okay, because it's coming from the central nervous system to restore and maintain balance. Right, there we go. Okay, folks, I think we're going to take a quick ad break, and I'll see you all after that.
No one ever asks why we do the weird things we do. Like, why once is never enough. Or doing 2 trips is just one too many. Why do we, before we use these, or say 5, when we mean 20? Why do we have second thoughts? And think that lift buttons make them go faster? Why don't we walk there? Cross our fingers, touch wood, and struggle to hide our true feelings? At Liberty, we want to know all the weird and wonderful things that make us human, because human beings, being human, are what we make financial solutions for. Liberty, in it with you.
Did you know that humans only developed blonde hair about 11,000 years ago? Scientists believe that blonde hair developed in northern Europe during the last ice age as an evolutionary adaptation arising from the necessity for vitamin D. In an area with less solar radiation, lighter skin and hair allows sunlight to more easily trigger the production of vitamin D. Blonde hair is still most common in Scandinavian countries.
Welcome back, guys and girls. I hope you're learning and you're paying attention and we're getting through all of this stuff. Well, first of all, we have to shout out to Liberty. They are in it with you. And guys and girls, you know what? You should actually possibly consider taking the time to go onto their Facebook page and just saying to them, you watch Tenfold Education. You use all the mindset learn stuff. And you think they rock because they are helping you. And they've never asked for anything. They never advertise about everything they do. They don't say one word to anyone. They just quietly go about assisting the learners in this country, and they actually deserve like a thumbs up. Okay, so that's just my little bit of what. Okay, then don't forget to download your Tenfold Education app. It's got a tutor function. It's got stuff. Plenty of stuff to help you. Then don't forget WhatsApp. We've got our little bot Dixie waiting to get your stuff. So there's the number. Make sure you use it. And then last but not least, guys and girls, the mindset at Mindset Learn, whatever, the folder, the thing that you type in when you're on YouTube. Okay, so the YouTube at Mindset Learn, and we've got tons of videos that have been uploaded for you to help you to get the best possible matric results that you can. And this isn't just the National Senior Certificate kids, it's the IEB kids, it's any learner writing exams in this country, all right? So let's look at our next question. What do we have here? We've got, study the diagram below of a sequence of events that takes place from fertilization. And by the way, fertilization can be spelled with an S or a Z, hey? So remember, Z is Oxford English and an S is American version. So, of the ovum to the development of the embryo, okay, in part of a human female reproductive system. Now, you and I both know that this structure where all of this happened is the fallopian tube. And it will happen in one fallopian tube every single menstrual cycle. Okay, so the arrows indicate the direction of the development of the ovum after fertilization. What is rule number 1 of answering exam questions? We label. So this little guy here is the ovum. And the ovum is going to be haploid. Remember, it contains one set of chromosomes. The little sperm cells, which are here, will contain one set of chromosomes because they're also haploid. I'm going to put an N here. Okay, and when that joins together, we're going to end up with C, which is a zygote. And the zygote is going to be diploid. It's going to have a double set of chromosomes like it's supposed to. In other words, 46 chromosomes because it's human. This here is going to be a process of fertilization. Okay. This here is a 2-cell structure, but I'm sure that's not what the label's intended. This is probably that mitosis is taking place. So that would be a process. Okay, then we go and we go. So it goes from 2 cells to 4 cells to 8 cells to 16 cells, just like normal mitosis. And we end up with this ball of cells, which is called the morula. Okay, like marula fruit, morula. And then it develops into this little structure here called the blastocyst. Okay, and the blastocyst will develop and develop this outer layer, which I'm not sure what G is supposed to be. So G could be blastocyst. Although I've already put that in there, but it wasn't labeled. So blastocyst, or it could be this outer membrane around the blastocyst, which would be called the trophoblast. And this little ball of cells here is going to develop into the embryo. Okay, and this here is the blastocyst cavity. So F is clearly the endometrium, and H, see these little structures? They are your chorionic villi. And what do? They grow into the endometrium, and that growing into the endometrium here is called implantation. Okay, so that's implantation. When those little chorionic villi grow into the endometrium, which is going to be all nice and glandular and vascular, and progesterone is going to make sure that it stays that way for the entire pregnancy. And then what happens? That point here, as that embryo develops, is going to then become the placenta. And what is the placenta's role? The placenta is going to keep the embryo in place in the uterus. It supplies it with oxygen and nutrients from the mother's blood. It removes the wastes from the embryo and sends it back to the mother's blood. Okay, so the wastes and the carbon dioxide. And it starts secreting from about 12 weeks. The placenta takes over. In fact, it starts at about 7, 8, 9 weeks. It starts to take over the production of progesterone. And think of progesterone as pregnancy. Starts to take over the production of progesterone from the corpus luteum, which will then just slowly disintegrate and just become nothingness. All right. And the placenta takes over production of progesterone, and that is incredibly important because it's that progesterone that stops the whole process of happening, the whole menstruation cycle from occurring until that embryo is ready to be born. So it goes embryo, from 3 months we call it a fetus, and then the fetus develops and develops and develops, and then the woman gives birth to a live baby, boy, girl, whatever, as long as they're healthy. All right, so here we go. Identify structure C, that is the zygote. Okay, then, where am I? The stage of embryo development at E. At E, it's a morula. All right. What else do I want here? The structure that develops from a combination of the parts F and H. So let's just quickly check F and H. F and H, which would be the endometrium and the chorionic villi, the structure that it's going to be the placenta. So the structure that develops is going to be the placenta. Name the process that takes place at B. So B, it's fertilization. We'll do the American version, okay. Fertilization, when G attaches to F. So let's quickly check. G attaches to F. When G attaches to, so when the blastocyst attaches to the endometrium, we call it implantation. Okay, then give the chromosome number of the cells at D. The cells at D, it's going to be from the diploid zygote. So what is the chromosome number? It's going to be a diploid number, which will be 46. So it asks you, give the chromosome number. You don't have to write 46 chromosomes. You just have to write 46. And then cell A is probably something that's only got, A, there we go, is the ovum. And the ovum is going to be haploid. Therefore, it only has one set of chromosomes, which is half of 46, which will make it 23 chromosomes. They didn't ask how many chromosome pairs. They asked how many chromosomes. So give the chromosome number. There are 46. I know it's 23 pairs, but that's not the correct answer because they're asking for the number of chromosomes. And here, 23. So 2 sets makes it diploid, and 1 set is going to make it haploid. All right, now we've still got a bit of time, so let's quickly do this. Something I reckon that provides quite a lot of confusion to learners, and that is a very, very possible question in an exam, is oogenesis. Now, oogenesis, genesis means to create. And oo, think of oo for ovary and ovum. Okay, so oogenesis happens in the ovary to create that ovum. All right, now, what I really would like, let me just move this up a little bit. Okay, so what I really want you to look at is this. We have diploid cells. Those are all the normal cells that we have in our body. Diploid cells in the ovaries of a fetus. In other words, this baby girl, before she's even born, the diploid cells in the ovaries of the fetus undergo mitosis. Okay, to do what? To form many follicles. Okay, now, just as a snippet of extra information, okay, which you may get in a long question or one of those paragraph type questions, as I'll say to you, but as long as you know, at birth, a baby girl, oh man, for heaven's sake, Kathy, a baby girl, a baby girl has about, and look at this, 400,000 follicles. 400,000 follicles. That is a heck of a lot of follicles. The problem is, along the way, a whole bunch of them get destroyed. So by the time the female goes to puberty and starts releasing those follicles, the earlier the onset of puberty, the quicker the girl actually, or the female will actually run out of eggs, of ovum, or ova. One ovum, many ova, will run out of ova, okay, and start going through menopause earlier. The more follicles that she retains from puberty, the longer she will remain fertile. Okay, so you must remember that. Think about it. Don't learn your life science topics as little boxes. Try and apply as much as you can. I mean, life sciences is a bit like maths lit. It applies to every single thing in and around your life. You've got a mother, you have sisters. Girls, you have brothers. You've got fathers, you've got uncles. You know, think about what happens. Everyone has experienced babies. What can the babies do? What can't they do? Those things. Apply your learning and your topics to your lives around you. Don't see it as a school subject and there it is. Life science is one of the most amazing subjects because one day when you are as old as I am, you can sit with your grandchildren and you can say, do you know what? If you grow a hedge and you trim the top and you trim the sides are going to grow nice and thick where you don't trim them. And that's how you make a hedge. Why? You learned it in matric life sciences. Okay? Or your daughter gives birth. You can say to, or she's going through a pregnancy, you can say to her, you know what, this is what's happening. Why? I learned it in matric life sciences. So here we go. You've got your diploid cells in the ovaries of the fetus that undergo mitosis to form your follicles. Now, from onset of puberty, oh man, what is wrong with me today? From the onset of puberty, follicle stimulating hormone, that's what it does, it stimulates the follicles, causes one cell inside the follicle to, I need more space here, undergo meiosis. It's only one at a time, hey? So, undergo meiosis of the, now remember at the end of meiosis, we have 4 unidentical daughter cells. So, of the 4 unidentical daughter cells produced clearly after meiosis, only one survives to form a mature haploid ovum. Remember, the other 3 simply disintegrate. They're your polar cells, and they simply disintegrate. And the one that survives is going to form your mature haploid, one set of chromosomes in the ovum. This process occurs monthly during the menstrual cycle until menopause. And menopause is when everything stops. You stop producing ova. Okay, make sure you know that, guys and girls. Rewind, write it down, learn it. It is important. All right. As far as what we've covered today, I actually wanted to do, there was a lovely question on the reflex arc, which I didn't get to, but I think what we've covered is important, and thank you for sending through those amazing questions. And for next week, we're doing homeostasis and plants. So please send through your questions. Send them through during the week. You don't have to send them all through on a Wednesday morning or a Tuesday evening, okay? Send those questions. I want to see questions, and I want to hear from you. So send messages on Facebook. So have an awesome week going forward. Stay safe. Take care. Use the holidays to study, and mwah.